just to find something to eat. Yeah, finding it was quite difficult. We start now or it's in 2 minutes? Okay. So it's just...
Merci à vous. Bon festival, ça a bien commencé. Oui, bon festival à vous.
Kurz Hallo sagen. Moritz Hemminger, Playmaker Bildvertrieb. Und Monteverdi Town. Ja, super.
Nice to be back. Merci für deine E-Mail. Hat mich wirklich gefreut. Merci vielmals.
Wie cool, also wir haben Washington auf der Piazza oder im Femi gehabt. Das haben wir gar nicht so announced. Cool.
Doch schon.
Fascination Variety. Kommen die Leute?
Du, es ist ein bisschen seltsam, sagst du. Schon in Venedig hat es auch weniger Leute gehabt.
Also da ist relativ offen sehr, dass ihr
Ja, klar.
im Fußball ist natürlich nicht wirklich so.
Okay.
Grazie a lei.
Good afternoon and welcome to today's panel. There was a small mistake, a typo in the announcement. This panel, as you can hear, is not in French but in English. If you require French translation, please use the headphones that are provided right at the back. We have translation. Thank you very much. Today's topic of conversation, as you can read on the screen back there, is the role of festivals and cinemas in the new exhibition ecosystem. In other words, how is the fact that, especially now during the pandemic, more and more new films are being released straight onto streaming platforms, how is that fact influencing and changing the festival and the cinema landscape? My name is Lory Roebuck. I will be your host for the next hour, and it is my pleasure to welcome four very distinguished guests to our panel today. Jonah Nazzaro, the new artistic director of the Locarno Film Festival. Thank you very much for making time to come here today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
We have Anaïs Emri, who is the new artistic director of the Geneva International Film Festival, which takes place in November.
Exactly. Hello.
We have Christian Jungen, who is the relatively new artistic director of the Zurich Film Festival, which takes place end of September, beginning of October. And I'm also very happy to welcome Moritz Hemminger from the World Sales, the Playmaker Munich, formerly known as Ari Media International, where he serves as the deputy head of sales and acquisitions. So I would like to briefly set the stage for our conversation by bringing up three recent examples. We've all been hearing about how currently Scarlett Johansson is suing Disney for releasing her film Black Widow, which she co-produced, directly onto their streaming service. She's unhappy because her salary is tied to the ticket receipts at the cinemas. She doesn't get any money for the film being shown on the streaming platform. And this is, of course, a direct consequence of Disney and other studios like Warner Brothers adapting their release strategy now in the pandemic and releasing their films directly onto their own streaming platforms, which makes the job of some of my guests on the panel today a lot harder, as you will hear within the next hour. I would also like to, I also remembered it was 4 years ago at the Cannes Film Festival. We all know Cannes has a very special relationship with Netflix films. It was the world premiere of Bong Joon-ho's last film before Parasite, Okja, which was a Netflix. Netflix had the rights to it, and when the logo of Netflix showed up, the audience in Cannes booed. So, Jonah, you opened your first Locarno Film Festival last night with the film Beckett, which is distributed by Netflix. I listened, nobody booed. There was one person who whistled very quietly. So, I mean, apart from the fact that the director of the film has a history with Locarno, from your point of view, what does Locarno opening with a Netflix film represent?
Well, it's first of all, thank you, Lory, and thanks for all of you for being here today. Well, it's quite easy. I mean, Netflix is one of the many new players that are rewriting the rules of engagement of the audiovisual landscape. And I think this whole debate started off in a funny way, because for me, I'm quite agnostic about this whole debate, in the sense that it's about the movies, not the way the business model changes. I mean, I'm speaking as a festival. Today, Variety announced that the London Film Festival is opening with another Netflix film, with Idris Elba in the cast, and so on. For me, opening with a Netflix film meant simply Locarno is aware that there's a shift in the business model. Things are changing. There are new players. Netflix is just one of them. There are already some new production energies out there, new ones that go directly on streaming, very new one. So I think this is an extremely interesting moment. Everybody can decide where they want to stand. And yesterday it was quite peculiar, because in the Favi, in the afternoon, we had the live orchestra playing to an Harold Lloyd classic, and at night we were opening with a so-called Netflix film. And again, I want to stress, the film was produced by Luca Guadagnino's Frenesy, a production house, and it was acquired later by Netflix for world sales. And in my experience in Venice, for instance, Netflix has acquired the rights to quite a few so-called auteur films that otherwise would have not had any chance in the so-called market. And for instance, a film like Bombay Rose, an animation film from India, they acquired the world rights, and I guess they made the life of the director a lot easier, as if she had to wait for many smaller distributors. I mean, again, it's a business model. Is it good? Is it bad? We can debate. This is why we're here for. But it will not take us far if we stick to these categories. It's black, it's white, it's good or bad. We should start thinking what is actually changing. And the Scarlett Johansson Disney thing that you were mentioning in the opening, the back end deal that she's not paid at the beginning, but at the end, is an interesting thing. But this is something that pertains to the tentpole movies. And for instance, Disney is already fighting back not only in court, but also with the box office results of Jungle Cruise, where they say, look, we have released Jungle Cruise also on VOD, but the receipts at the box office are not dropping. So maybe it's the movie's fault. So I mean, it's an interesting moment for the industry.
Thank you. There were a lot of very interesting thoughts that I would like to delve into deeper in a little bit. I would like to give everyone on the panel first a chance to say something, especially because I've heard, I mean, we have 3 artistic directors from Swiss film festivals here, and I have heard from many of them that how difficult it has been to try to book Netflix films or films from other streaming services for their festivals. Anaïs, this is something that you've shared with me. Can you tell us about your experiences trying to get streaming films for the Geneva International Film Festivals, especially considering that Geneva is very open towards these kinds of films?
So I haven't programmed an edition of the GIF yet. My first will be in November, but I have previous experience trying to book films, and it's true that so far the response for smaller festivals is maybe not very active because of the lack of knowledge, and this makes me really curious about our role, which is also the goal of this discussion. And I think I agree with Jonah, the models are changing, and following my opinion, they will keep on changing. Now change will be the normality. And in that situation, it's really stressful for us, but also for the exhibitors. And in a way, we are all trying to maintain the attention of the audience through our different work and missions. And I have the feeling that after also the pandemics, what the festival can do for the whole audiovisual industry is to keep people coming back to the cinemas and having fun and experiencing new models with good films. And this is not that, this is easy to say but quite difficult to manage, because we need to get to those films, and we need to be able to keep on curate our programs, because the audience come to festival because they are a strong lineup. They feel like they come in a community, and there they can make discoveries. So for me, it's really important. It's also important to stress, to answer your question a bit more precisely, that the festivals, they make stars, they make names for female and male directors, and even the platforms, they need those names because they need also prestigious films in their catalogs and so on. So we are very useful in, scouting new talents, bring them to the press and the audience, and then, of course, those films can be distributed in another model. And this is why I would hope for a better communication between the platform and the festival, obviously, and also, the different size of festivals, because, well, Jonah has a big boat to guide. My festival is a bit smaller, but still the reality is the same. And I think also that the fact that we are so local, so in touch with the audience and their habits, the way they change, we can really observe and bring back some experience back to the platform, back to the producer, distributors, and so on. So for me, it's really important to stress that.
Thank you, Anaïs. Christian Jungen, on the topic of better communication with the streaming platforms, you mentioned to me how there was an old world with contact, pertaining to contact with distributors and studios, and there's a new world which has made things more difficult for you programming your festival. Can you explain that, please?
Well, it changed really during the pandemic. The old world was dominating last year. So you had distributors you can meet in your own town. We're based in Zurich. Warner Brothers has an office there, or 20th Century Fox, or Sony, or whoever. You go there, you have coffee, you talk about the lineup, you probably have lunch, and then you do a deal. Netflix, Amazon, Apple, they aren't around. You have to look for them, you have to search them, you have to try to meet them. Then you meet one guy in Berlin, and in Cannes he's out, then there's this new guy. So it's difficult to get in touch with them. But you have to, because Netflix today has the status of a main studio. They are so important, especially if you're focused, as we are, on the cinéma d'auteur grand public. I mean, Scorsese is working for them, many of the big names, Jane Campion, Sorrentino. So you have to deal with them, but they challenge you. It's they think differently. And for us, the challenge is that we are committed to cinema. I mean, you've been saying that everything is changing. Okay, I say one thing remains. Cinema is great. So for more than 100 years, people go to a theater, watch a movie with people they don't know next to each other. And I'm very much convinced that this will remain. And what's interesting is, in the pandemic, the focus of who you are became much clearer. I can read festivals better now. And then there was the Bundesamt für Kultur. We had to apply for new funds, so there were tough questions. What are your goals? Where are you heading to? And today it's a good situation. You know who stands for what. And Zurich Film Festival, together with Fribourg, my colleague Thierry Chaubin is there, we stand for cinema as we knew it. And yesterday is the new tomorrow. That's what I'm convinced. We are social species. People want to come together. They want to see a movie together. And obviously, you can, rhetorically, you can balance around it. But at the end of the day, if you go in a partnership with Netflix, they stood for something else. And you have to justify why you do that.
Okay. Thank you, Christian. Now, Moritz Hemminger, talking about changes in the industry, you've been in world sales for the past 13 years, so you've seen a lot of what's been happening. Your job is you acquire the international rights to films at festivals, for example, and then you sell those distribution rights to territories outside of Germany, Switzerland, and Austria, outside of the German-speaking world, so to speak. How has the growing influence of the streaming services changed your job on both sides? So on the side of the acquisitions, is there more competition when you're trying to get a film? And on the side of sales, is there potential for cooperation and partnerships with the streaming platforms?
Yes, it's a good question. So, of course, yes, our business has also drastically been influenced by the global streamers. On the acquisition side, when we talk to producers, it often happens that producers simultaneously also talk to streamers to get their movie financed. If we come on board with an international sales minimum guarantee, it's a small portion of the entire budget for the financing. Of course, streamers are very attractive because they can say basically, yes, okay, what's the budget? 5 million, we will finance your movie, and then they can go shoot the movie. So that's why it's very attractive to speak to streamers already, of course, on script stage, and to make it a Netflix original or Amazon original. And that means for us and for other sales companies that we need to get involved more than just picking up the international distribution rights. I believe that to exist in future, you have to adapt in the sense that we need to co-produce more, we need to co-develop even basically on script stage, where a producer has an idea, to really come on board early stage, which means we have to increase our risk, of course, but that's part of the game, and that's what I see, that those days are over, that sales agents can basically say, it will still happen once in a while, that the sales agents say, okay, like produce the movie and we will watch the rough cut or the finished movie, or we will even wait if we have a confirmed festival premiere that's, I mean, that's easy, the easiest way, and with less risk for sales agents. But now also having streamers competing, that has changed for us on the acquisition side. Sales, we have one movie premiering here, Monte Verita. Thank you for the invitation. We're very happy, and my first Piazza screening, very excited Saturday evening. And this movie, of course, we will also talk to streamers. But you know, being in the international sales industry now for 13 years, I have a large network to independent distributors from all over the world. And if we go the streamer way, or we sell the rights to the theatrical distributors per territory, that is a discussion we also have with the producers. We have to decide, and also, is there interest of streamers or not, and what is the best way, like the best distribution way for this film. You always have to look at the project you have, and then decide what is the best international distribution opportunity for this film.
And talking about this greater risk that you have to take up, Christian Jungen, you mentioned to me in a conversation once that you feel in your discussions with world sales that there is more fear involved, no one wants to make any mistakes, and that has made your job a bit harder. Could you explain what you mean by that?
Well, people have lost a lot of money over the past 18 months. So a lot of world sales, they fear for their business model. Is independent financing still working in the future? And they think twice where to give a film to. And if you organize a festival, you need to be an optimist. Otherwise, you're in the wrong place, because you have to deal with deceptions. You have a film and then it's cancelled. You have a star, then he doesn't enter the plane. All sorts of things can happen. So you need to regenerate quickly to get back in the mood. And if you're the optimistic guy and then people are sitting there with crossed arms, it's not easy to convince them to risk something. And that's something, I mean, I'm, as you said, relatively new. So last year was my first edition. Now I'm preparing my second. But already in these 2 years, I can see a difference. The mindset is people are afraid of losing money, of not getting screens, of not selling their films. So I wonder how it was for you, Jonah, here in Locarno. Have you different experiences in dealing with world sales?
Well, as you know, there are things that you say behind curtains, and there are things that you say publicly. It's no secret. I mean, but what you say is quite interesting, because, for instance, sales are reorganizing or restructuring their business model by trying to become also distributors. So to cut ties with certain companies, which in a way is also, you know, reshaping the business models, because usually you have sales, distribution, and so on. So when a sales becomes distribution, what does it signal to me? That they know exactly where they want to go and what kind of gains there are foreseeing for the film. So this is also quite interesting, because and to me it's just, again, it's just normal, because everybody tries to protect their business. This year, as you know, Cannes has moved closer to us. And what it produced, this moving closer to us, is that everybody wanted to be in Cannes. And the second option is Venice. And why is that? Because with the festival now, it happens the same as with the first weekend. If you make a lot of money the first weekend, you might see another weekend. So if you go to Cannes and your film has cost 10 and you sell the film, let's say, in 12 territories, you have more opportunities to do another film. If you are a producer, or if you are a sales and you have many films in the different sections of Cannes, you might have more opportunities to have next year's edition, some films in that. So, and I see it also the way it changes with the smaller films. Sometimes films used to have on their poster so many laurels because they've been in so many festivals. That has stopped. Because to send a film in so many festivals, you still need to pay the director if you are the producer. You need to pay the hotels and this and that. So maybe it's more useful if you go just in a couple of festivals. You try to maximize the money you have invested. And this is something that, for instance, affects the medium-sized festivals who once were considered the main environment where medium-sized film had the opportunity to be appreciated and seen by a sympathetic audience and maybe even picked up by smaller regional distributors. This does not exist anymore because the big sale company has also like 7, 8 titles of less smaller size, but when they are dealing for the main competitions in the very big A festivals, those smaller films come into play. It's nothing new. I mean, it's what the Hollywood industry used to do when they were renting out the films to the big cinemas, and then they had to have like 10 B movies, 10 B westerns that otherwise would have stayed in California and never have seen the dark of the cinemas in New York. So it's nothing new. It's simply the old rules. So this is why I think that it's getting more complex, because we are in the middle of this really complex restructuring of the global audiovisual industry. And it's true what Christian says. I mean, it's very tiring because even can have some very bad experiences. When you have a film like Wes Anderson's new film and the whole cast and director don't show up for the press conferences, well, that's huge. I mean, that's quite a blow. You might, downplay it and stuff, but still, I mean, it's kind of hard.
The good thing is there is not only the producers or the world sales. For me, the key to bring reluctant films into a festival program is to be close to the artist, because they want to go to a festival. They have worked 4 years for a film. They want a splashy premiere, maybe a red carpet or a green carpet. They want an after party, because on Netflix nobody claps at the end. You don't know if people liked it. You don't know how many people have seen it. So if you're close to the artist, you're still in the game.
I fully agree with you. On Netflix, nobody claps at the end, but the next film. What I want to stress is that also a film from global streamers could need the exposure of a festival, depending on how well known is already the director. So we can be also useful for those platforms. Maybe it's not eclatant or now, but it is, because they need also the system to create the names and the brands. And this goes with knowing the audience.
By the way, maybe you should add that, I mean, we're talking about Netflix if it was a streamer only, but Netflix films can hit theaters. I mean, Scorsese's films was in Swiss theaters, Roma was in theaters, so Netflix doesn't mean it's just streaming. And another thing we should clarify, there are Netflix originals, the one they produce, but Wolkenbruch was produced by independent producers, had a Swiss run in theater, and then was picked up for the rest of the world. So it's not black and white. There is not this one model anymore for how to release a film, and Netflix is the best proof for that.
But then again, I think we have an elephant in the room, because when we say Netflix, it feels like as we are evoking the Antichrist, like, oh my God, get the holy water. No, it's not like that. I mean, when Scorsese was shopping around for The Irishman, he was kind of like begging with his head, like, can I make this movie? It's the last great mafia movie I want to do. And they said, no way. I mean, and they come along and they make the film. So Steven Spielberg strikes a deal with them. Is he selling out? I don't think so, because the people that didn't like Steven Spielberg before won't like him now. So I don't see really. What I'm trying to say is we all love cinemas, okay? Yesterday when I stepped into the Fevi and the orchestra was playing they had to pull me out to bring me where I had to be because I wanted to stay there. So it's not about not loving cinemas anymore. It's being realistic. I mean, if I could choose a decade where I can be in the movies, give me the 70s for all my life, okay? So I want to be there. But I'm not. And I need to be realistic how things change, and things are not bad or good. You have to understand where you want to be, and Netflix is just one of the players. I mean, Mubi is a streamer, Spamflix is a streamer, and it's a completely different concept. And Criterion Channel is also another reality. So we need to understand that maybe what we used to perceive as cinema is getting a bit more polarized. People that like auteur cinema would rather go with Mubi and Criterion. People who are more grand public would think that Amazon and Netflix is the place where they have to look. But again, Anais said the magic word, curation. It's about curation. It's how we make our work meaningful, I guess. It's not as easy as before, but was it easy before? I don't know. I mean, when you hear the war stories of the directors from yesterday when they were driving to the festivals with film cans, censored film cans from the Eastern European countries. I mean, that's just romantic anecdotes, and the industry, at the end of the day, they're counting the tickets, they're counting the money, and last time I checked, movies were still made with money. So even the author movies, the ones that cost very little.
Thank you, Jonah. I just want to jump in here quickly with two questions that will continue what all of you just said. First of all, I'm interested, is there ever a case where the streamers, not just Netflix, also the others, come to you festival directors, and say, hey, I want my film to play at your festival? Or is it generally you who has to chase after them?
Yeah, we chase them in our case, but we're not Cannes, probably not Netflix and Cannes, but the streamers circle bigger festivals. But usually we start searching for films very early on. We have a database, we know what's in production, so we keep asking, has shooting begun, where are you? So in general, it's the festivals going after the producers and not the other way around.
Anais is nodding.
Yes, but there's something interesting about this chase which has really changed, and I think for us Swiss people it's interesting to think. It's the question of the territory. Because, for an example, going to a global player when you come from Switzerland, sometimes it's not that easy because the country has 3 different language, big festival, but it's a quite special country, strong in a way, but also sometimes not really understood in its diversity. So it's interesting to have an international person. I think for the future could be interesting to see how the Swiss territory could be more understood and valued by those global actors. And also, you mentioned sales agents that goes into distribution. Distribution is about territory. You should know, where to put the film, where to start, which city, and so on. So it's difficult to do it from far. So how much are we known internationally, and what can we do to better this understanding? I think it could really help also the relationship. So I don't know what you think, how you perceive us from afar.
I wanted to say, I really wanted to point out in the pandemic, we noticed as sales companies how important the work of festivals is. Really, the curating of films, how we benefit as a sales company, and also the producers filmmakers, that festivals put our movies into a spotlight. There are reviews that are being published. All industry people are at one place. How important this is to bump into people standing in line for the cinema, at a bar, at a restaurant, to talk about movies. How important this is. And that we missed entirely during the pandemic. The virtual editions were nice, and it was at least an opportunity for us to promote our movies, but it's just not the same thing. So I'm super happy to be here. I was in Cannes, way less people there, but everyone was happy to be there and to see each other again. And that's what our industry is about. It's a people's business, and I'm really thankful for the festival work my colleagues here at the panel are doing.
Thank you. I found it very interesting what John David Washington, the star of the opening movie Beckett, said at the premiere last night. He said what drew him to the role was that it was about survival, and he said what brought us all together at that premiere was the survival of the cinematic experience. And what I found interesting about that was he said it about Beckett, which, let's be honest, anyone who has a Netflix account can watch at home next week. So this leads sort of into the question of the role that your festivals play within the distribution chain now. Is it, because naturally all of us here in the film bubble, we feel very, very protective of the cinematic experience. But if you speak to people outside our bubble, and let's be honest, there are a lot more, they think streaming is the best invention since sliced bread. So basically, what I'm trying to say is, if they want to watch I have to rephrase. What can your festival offer the streamers? What makes your festivals attractive to them? Is it a case, much like maybe skateboarding at the Olympics, that they are more important for you than you are for them?
I wouldn't say that, because I guess that the streamers are aware of the surplus, in terms of economical surplus, that the festival brings to them in terms of credibility, believability, artistic value, which we don't need to quote Benjamin, but it's still something worth. You can't exactly point out how much that word is, but that's worth something. But for me, the idea that Beckett will be available on Netflix is quite a huge idea, because how were we frustrated when we were showing wonderful films in our festival and they never got distributed? All the wonderful films from the global south of the world, all the and sometimes even genre film that we said, this thing is crazy, it will be, and it didn't happen. And directors stayed, they made 1-2 films, and no distributor picked them up, no one bought them. So, I mean, it's not that before all these tiny films were making crazy money and everybody was running to the cinemas. Let's be honest, I mean, it was difficult. It was either the festivals or nothing. So nowadays, we have streamers that pick up also the quirkier, smaller films, and it is possible that a film like Hunting Season by Natalia Garagiola, that was acquired by Netflix, has been seen by way more people than if it had waited for a distributor. So, and when Bombay Rose was threatened with censorship in India because it portrayed A, Kashmir, 2, a relationship between a Hindu girl and a Muslim boy, and a lesbian relationship, when Netflix came aboard, it became a hit. So, I mean, Gitanjali Rao's life became easier. I mean, I didn't see a distributor coming to the rescue and say, okay, we are doing this, we are here. And well, I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just saying we need to be very clear-eyed and rational. This is a business. Let's not kid ourselves. It's about art, but it is a business. And you do business with money. I'm sorry, but it's like that. And not, of course, I stress again, it's about curation. It's about the works that we pick in order to promote the ideas behind where we stand behind. The idea of the world of community that we would want to live in, a better world, and community that is more inclusive, more just, more respectful, more open to diversity. These are the core values that we promote. We are not promoting business models. We are promoting ideas. It's about what kind of world we want to live in, and the films that we pick for our festivals are the ambassadors of this. And this is why curating is crucial. The essay by Scorsese that Kevin Billy was quoting this morning appeared in Harper's Magazine is exactly about that. How do we continue this tradition of cinema? By making clear choices. Mine would obviously be different from Anais, but when I see what she likes and how she represents her own world of films, and I love it. So, I mean, it's the same with John when he does his programs in Winterthur. It's a marvel to be there, to share the community with those filmmakers who are striving to make meaningful works, and you come in touch with such a great diversity. So our job is to be with the filmmaker. If some of them go with the streamers, it's because they've had a great deal. They couldn't say no, and not because of The Godfather. But it's like that. I mean, who doesn't want to make more than one movie? It's about that, to make more than one movie, to make a career out of it, and do maybe meaningful work that means something to other people as well.
I mean, especially in the second half of the year, I mean, two things that are advantages festivals can provide is publicity, because there are several hundred journalists at one point. You can make a press screening, and then you spread the news. And the other one, the Oscars are in early the next year, and to position a film, you still need some accolades, and festivals can help shape a film for the award race, and I think that's an important part why they do it. And it's interesting, when I was a film critic, when I started out, I was a film critic for 25 years. There were the 68 generation, the main critics, they hated Hollywood. And I grew up with Rocky, all these mainstream films. I loved Hollywood, and I was at the beginning was an outsider, and they all had this strange fantasy what Hollywood would be. You know, this big fat producer with the cigar and the young girl on the knee, etc. Then I lived in LA for a while, did research, worked at the studios, and I ran into people like me, cinephiles, professors of movies. They know everything about cinema. And today with the streamers, it's a bit similar. It's this dangerous world, but these are cinephiles. They love to have festival screenings. They love to have a party. They love to go on the carpet. And the answer why they do it is quite simple, because it's fun, because they've worked hard and for a long time, and the festival premiere is still very much attractive.
I would like to take this opportunity to ask if there are any questions in the audience. If so, please raise your hand. You might or might not be passed a microphone, and please specify if your question is for the entire panel or for one person specifically.
Maybe in the meantime, if I may, one thing that changed is the tempo. Because of streamers, they are quick. Our festival is in autumn, so end of September. We could go to Sundance, see some films, and have the European premiere in fall. Those days are over. If a film is hot, a month later it's on a platform, so the business has become very quick. And this means that in the festival selection process, a lot happens very late. So you need to be patient, and then you need to act quickly because you get links very late. This is another difference. In the previous world, and I'm referring to the last year, you saw a lot of films in a movie theater with an audience. In the new world, you get a lot of streaming links, and frankly, if I was a world sales, I would not give streaming links to people, because you need to be very, you should switch your phone off, you should send your daughter to the playground, you should be focused, and it's hardly not possible in today's world. If you're in a cinema, besides the church, is one of the last places where not only generation mix, but where the cell phone is off. And that's a big difference. If you see, you're much more focused and into a film, if you see it in a theater, than if you watch it on your iPad in between two Zoom meetings.
So, if is there a question I haven't seen? No, I just wanted, because I was thinking about what festival can propose, to the global streamers, and what are definitely our advantage for the industry. And I think the word that come to my mind, definitely, the value is the feedback. I mean, if you want to make several films as a producer, as a film director, you need the feedback from an audience. It's really a data you can integrate, you can go ahead, you agree, you disagree, but it's also, and also for the industry, knowing how the audience is evolving, how they behave. It's difficult to know that through just the datas of a computer. In a festival, you know if people have changed. You know if they stay the whole film, you know if they are shocked, you know if their taste evolved. And there's no other place for that.
Moritz Hemminger, Christian Jungen just made a suggestion basically to you and your colleagues that you shouldn't send out links. Do you, on the other hand, have you're sitting across from 3 festival directors, and I get the feeling that your relationship with streamers is a lot more uncomplicated than theirs, more direct. Do you have suggestions or wishes towards the festival directors that could, I don't know, help them with this, or could shape a better collaboration maybe also for the future?
So start off with the links or watching movies in cinemas. Of course, ideal is always, we also want our distributors to watch the experience movie in a cinema and to be focused in a dark room. But the industry practice is that we send out screener links like many other sales companies. During the pandemic, we were forced to send out streamer links. Festivals also ask us for a streamer link in the meantime. So but yes, when this pandemic is hopefully over, we will start again. We did physical screenings for, like in France, we did screenings in Paris and invited the most prestigious theatrical distributors to watch the movie. And they come and they show up and they're happy to see the movie in a theater. And they take their time and leave the office. And we will hopefully continue doing that in future. In terms of festivals, yes, with all the match, like industry people, match meetings, co-production meetings, all the industry activities that are going on throughout the festivals, it would also be great to have this, contact with streamers, to have that, to them also be involved and to have the chance to speak to them during the festival on our movies. Yeah. Is there anything you wanted that you festival directors would like to add to that? To what Moritz just said?
There's a question.
If not, yes, please. There's a microphone right there for you.
Mr. Nassau said that money is all. Okay, I agree. But there is also culture. And we talk a lot about Netflix. And when we see Netflix, I think it's an international culture. And so something is also lost in this kind of culture. And Anis said we have in Switzerland the problem that we have French, Italian, and also German culture, or part of culture. And that's difficult to get in this kind of new systems. So I think the festival has also a kind of duty or responsibility to also support this kind of, I will not say local culture, because it sounds a little bit negative, but we have also different cultures in the whole world. And I think festivals can do this work not only to be in an economical system or in an economical logic, sondern to be in this cultural logic. And so you have a lot of mid-sized films. So, for example, Film Festival Zurich, I also grew up in Zurich. I don't understand why you show all the time Rambo or something like this. There are a lot of very interesting local film production in Swiss German. It's clear that they will never be in Netflix, but for a local culture or for a local identity or also for a local politic, it's very important because we are not only living in an economical world, we are also living in a world that we need some identity, some cultural identity, and this is also important. And so my idea is to say you have to do a kind of slot for this local or regional culture also, and not only talk about Netflix.
Well, you should come to the Zurich Film Festival soon. We never showed Rambo, although Rambo 1 is a very good film. It's almost a new Hollywood type of film, so it's very underestimated. But yeah, we show a lot of Swiss films. I think besides the Solothurn Festival, we're the one that shows most Swiss films and not only the big ones. And of course, if you're a festival in Switzerland based in Zurich, where most of the film industry is based, it's an obligation to be close to Swiss cinema and to help get it seen by a broader audience. Maybe what's a bit different in Zurich than in other festivals, we're very much also an audience festival and try to make the crossover from the cinephile circles to the broader audience, where other festivals are more, the big cinephile audience coming together. So our mission is to break out of these circles and make films known to the broader public.
Well, I just want to add that I invite you to explore this year's program of Locarno. And I'm not going to point out titles. I want you to explore the program according to your own desires and wishes. But I'm quite sure you will find a lot that will appeal your taste, sensibility, and your taste for discovering new films. What I was trying to say, and maybe I was a bit broad in expressing my ideas, is that we live in extremely complex time where the laws of the industry are constantly reshaped. For instance, the major Hollywood players, they don't have a common strategy to release their film theatrical, then streaming, then home video, and so on. A couple of months before, that was still so. Now it's not that anymore. And what I'm saying is that this cannot be without any consequences on how smaller producers are working. We are always talking about the streamer as some kind of evil. I don't want to go into that, but for instance, there is one major film that we still haven't seen, the new James Bond. When MGM decided to pull James Bond because of the pandemic, you remember that more than 1,000 cinemas closed altogether because they were relying on that film to relaunch their economy. And that happened in the States, in the UK. And it tells you something about the movie industry if one single movie can produce this kind of result, which is quite heavy. How many jobs were lost? How many people had to reinvent themselves in one of the most trying times? So I do agree with protecting local cultures. We have a program here in Locarno that's called Open Doors. We work with upcoming filmmakers from very distant regions that are not necessarily on anybody's map. This year we conclude the 3-year span that we worked with Southeastern Asia and Mongolia. So we have always been paying attention to the films that come from the regions of the world where people don't necessarily pay attention. And again, I don't want to sound self-promoting. I invite you to explore the program. And just to add this last touch, the streamers are very much interested in this kind of cinema, the smaller local cinema, because the bigger player don't pay attention. If you browse through Netflix, you will see that there's a lot of Nollywood films. Are they good? Are they bad? It's not a question. They are there. You know, they've been bought. And I discovered that with a great surprise before printing the catalog. We have in Cineasti del Presente a film called Mis Hermanos Sueñan Despiertos by a Chilean girl who made the film with the Mapuche minority. And this girl has been singled out by Netflix to direct the first TV series for them. Should she say no?
Maybe I just want to add something which is not about single programming. I think it's important for us as well as festival directors to promote the festival culture, and I think in Switzerland we are quite lucky with a lot of different festivals with a very different identity, and I think you cannot open just one program and say we miss that. You should consider the whole Swiss audio festival scene, and this is really important that each festival holds its own identity. We have festivals devoted to certain, area, Africa, Asia, and some to Swiss production in Solothurn and so on. And the important politically and socially is to protect the diversity of festivals. Some are very big, some are smaller, but we should all be able to keep on working as a community which defends the different area of production. And sometimes to defend big film, you need to be big. Sometimes you need also to have another size and to be really precise and focused about your own identity. So it's about how the whole of the festival is working in one country to ensure the diversity. And also it's important to stress that. I think that's also the reason why we're here, because we are here invited by the Conférence of Swiss Festivals. And we are trying to coordinate our efforts to, spot as well the problem, the challenge for the present and the future together, which is something. It's at the moment quite difficult because there are so many.
Thank you very much, Anaïs, for your conciliatory remarks. Unfortunately, the time is running out for us. I would like to wrap things up with just a very brief question for all of you. Can you name us one film that you streamed and you wished you could have experienced in the middle of a festival audience? What's the first one that comes to mind?
Well, it's easy for me. Malcolm and Marie.
I don't know how to answer this question because the question could be all of them and none of them.
That's too diplomatic.
No, I don't know. I can't answer that.
Yeah, it's tough for me to single out one as well, but what I can say is I trust my own opinion more if I've seen it on a big screen.
Yeah.
If I see a film in a movie theater with an audience, then I can say, okay, it will work in Zurich or it will work in theaters generally. If I stream it, for me it's much more difficult to get a feeling, is it going to work or not? But this is also because for me it's very hard, as I said, to focus, to leave the cell phone away, etc. And I made rules for myself. It's off, iPad is far away, and you kind of need to focus. Otherwise, you don't see the art in what you're streaming.
I relate with what you're saying about the LPs. I mean, I can't understand the music if I'm not playing it on my turntable.
And Moritz, especially since you have to actively decide if your film should go to streaming or to cinemas.
Yeah. No, not a specific movie comes in my mind, but I was able to see French Dispatch in Cannes during the world premiere, and it was an incredible experience. And I'm so happy that I watched it in a cinema and not at home on a streaming device. So, yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. That wraps up today's panel. A big thank you to our guests, Jonah Nazzaro,
Thank you.
Anaïs Emery, Christian Jungen, and Moritz Hemminger. Thank you for making the time to be here today and to share your thoughts. This panel, Anaïs briefly mentioned it, was organized by the Conférence des Festivals, and they would like to extend their thank you to the Locarno Festival for their help and their gracious cooperation in setting up this panel. Thank you also to all our guests that are here today and everyone watching the live stream. We wish you a continued great festival experience. Grazie e buona giornata.